Hi, everybody. This is Jimmy. You're reading with Jimmy. We're reading Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. This is the analysis of Chapter 9, The Mock Turtle Story. First page, actually. In the last chapter, we see Alice sort of taking charge. She doesn't bow to the queen. She realizes that they are only cards, and she loses her fear. She saves the three gardeners from beheading. And all in all, Alice is really trying to play the game of croquet where everything used is alive, and it's really a lesson in chaos. But she's learning, isn't she? So the executioner brings back the Duchess, who the queen, because she was in prison, and who owns this cat. Alice says, well, you better ask the Duchess, and she's in prison. The queen tells the executioner, bring her here, and here we are, and this is the Mock Turtle story. So let me scroll down here a little bit. So the Mock Turtle is actually a new character. We haven't met him yet, or it yet. And this chapter starts out by the Duchess saying that she's so glad to see Alice, you dear old thing. And she tucks her arm affectionately into Alice's as they walked out together. This is almost a different Duchess, isn't it, than the last one when she was holding that pig or baby, depending on your point of view. And so she puts her arm in arm affectionately, as people in those days used to walk arm in arm. Sometimes they still do. You see it sometime on the street. Anyway, Alice was very glad to find her in such a pleasant temper. Because remember, the last time she was not very pleasant. And thought to herself that perhaps it was only the pepper that had made her so savage when they met in the kitchen. If you remember, the kitchen was full of smoke, pepper, everybody was sneezing. It's a horrible kitchen. So Alice thinks to herself, well, maybe it's the pepper. And then she starts saying to herself, so Alice is thinking to herself, she's really not daydreaming, but she's thinking to herself, when I'm a Duchess, she said to herself, parentheses, not in a very hopeful tone, though. In other words, she's not really thinking she's ever going to be a Duchess. I won't have any pepper in my kitchen at all, and soup does very well without. Well, maybe it's always the pepper that makes people hot-tempered, she went on, very much pleased at having found out a new kind of rule. What is she talking about here? She's basically thinking to herself that pepper makes people hot-tempered, and that if you use less pepper, they won't be so hot-tempered. Remember, part of her challenge in Wonderland is why people are disagreeable, they're always arguing. So she's thinking to herself, well, maybe if I didn't use some pepper. So the next time you meet a disagreeable person, or a person who's really angry, and you start arguing, you could look at them and say, yeah, are you using too much pepper in your food? But you may get hit, don't, if you want to. Anyway, she says, and vinegar makes them sour. Look at her train of thought, ladies and gentlemen. Pepper makes you hot-tempered. Vinegar makes you sour. Chamomile makes you bitter. Chamomile tea is supposedly very good to calm you down, but if you've tasted it, it's bitter. And barley sugar and such things make children sweet-tempered. Of course, children are sweet-tempered. Alice is a child, right? And barley sugar, something sweet, makes them sweet-tempered. I only wish people knew that, then they wouldn't be so stingy about it. You know, and then there's this long hyphen here, this long dash. She stops thinking to herself. She quite have forgotten that the Duchess by this time. So she loses herself in her train of thought. She's just thinking about food, how food makes people certain things. So this is an interesting concept, that food makes people what they are. You heard the saying, perhaps? You are what you eat, right? You've heard that? So, in other words, what you put into your body, you become, right? If you put, lots of stuff in it that's not good for you, you become not so good. You get sick, right? So she's thinking about the relationship of food to Yes, temperament. Is there a relationship to that? I know I've heard of people doing some hot sauce testing or hot sauce contests where how hot of a sauce can you take? Jimmy's never entered a contest like that, and I can assure you Jimmy never will because you're just playing with fire. No pun intended. Look up the word pun. Anyway, Alice is daydreaming or thinking things through. What do you think? You think she's just daydreaming or is she trying to think things through? What's the difference between daydreaming and thinking things through? What is the difference? And not only that, what is that in it? You know what that is? No, what? If these are really rules. She's looking for rules. Ladies and gentlemen, children, adults need rules. If you don't have rules, you have chaos. Look what happened in the croquet game in the last chapter. There weren't any rules, right? The hedgehogs, which was supposed to be the balls in the game, were alive. She was using a flamingo as the mallet. It was crazy. They were just moving around. It was chaos. There were no rules. We've seen this before in Wonderland. In any case, she had quite forgotten the Duchess by this time, and we're going to stop there, and you're going to find out what happens in the next page when we analyze it. This is Jimmy. You're reading with Jimmy. My email is jimmy@readingwithjimmy.com, jimmy@readingwithjimmy.com. Look forward to seeing you in the next analysis. Thanks again.